Welcome to the first part to a multi-part series on how to play 1v1 maps in Steel Division. So, what we're going to do in this video and the subsequent videos is show you how to play 1v1 maps in Steel Division, and what we're going to do in each video is break the maps down by lanes. Generally speaking, this will be lane 1, this generally be lane 2, this generally will be lane 3, and this will work for the most part for every map unless you're on a map that has some geographical barrier from having you have a lane, say there's a lake in the way or a river or something along those lines. So what we're going to be doing for this first video is we're going to be looking at Orsha North. This is the most symmetrical map in the game, therefore the most balanced for competitive play. We're going to be going through step by step the good lines of sight and how to attack and how to defend certain positions on this map so you can be successful in 1v1s. Starting, we're going to be looking at the left side from my red position. Now, there are a few key lines of sight that we'll look at first with this position. First, this one. Putting a tank here or an IG gun here will allow you to shoot into that farmstead that's on top of the hill. You can look at it by the 2,000 meter marker on my line of sight tool. But on the flip side, from the blue position, you can see there is a little tiny gap that's going to be here in the farmstead. This little gap for some reason gives you line of sight on this road right here. So let's look at it. We get the line of sight tool lined up correctly. As you can see there, the line of sight covers that road. So putting a good little 37mm, 45mm AT gun that shoots quickly, that has decent accuracy, will be really good at sniping infantry transports, which will be vital to winning this position on the map. That's why when you're fighting over this lane, lane 1, for our purposes here today, is going to be key to being successful on this map. That's why I make it a #1 priority to make sure I take care of this little farmstead right here if I'm going against an opponent who I think knows about that position. So, what do I do to attack this position from the Reds' perspective? Well, a lot of the time what I personally do is I try to get a good foothold in this tree line right here. Reason being is if I have a good foothold in this tree line, I can defend my town extremely well, because I can put IG guns, machine guns, AT guns, whatever I need in this tree line right here to cut off the approach from these roads here. Because if my opponent knows that, hey, I can't just put a tank on this road right here to shoot down this road, I'm going to have to deal with it. It forces them to take attention off the town right there and try to push through the forest to take care of the AT gun. Well, if I have flamethrowers, Tanko Desaniki, Stas Troop, what have you, defending it there, that gets them stuck in an infantry engagement they're going to be focusing on and putting resources into so they can attack the town. That also allows me to be more aggressive on this side as well, because I don't have to worry about defending the town here. I can put more resources into pushing through the valley here while being a little more defensive on the hill. So what it would end up looking like is I'm going to be a little bit defensive right here, extremely defensive right here, and extremely aggressive right here. Because if I can dominate this forest, I can pop out from the sides, do what I need to do to cut off the lines of advance and the reinforcements from my opponent. And that's the key to taking this flank, is stopping the line of sights on this hill, keeping your opponent from pushing these roads to take the town, and using this tree line to bully your opponent here. But what do we do from the blue perspective on the little forest and hill area here? Well, as we said, you want to make sure you get a nice little AT gun in this line of sight right here to keep your opponent from reinforcing this hill here. Because if you have that and you're able to push your opponent off the hill here, you can get an even better line of sight in this tree line right here that completely covers that road. Better yet, you get this position right here. It's a good little place to pop out with your tank and come back right here to keep your opponent really guessing and enforcing them into having to put units in this tree line here that really slows them down. A lot of the time you don't want to be putting tanks through this yellow forest, coming around, popping up here to get lines of fire on this hill, because one thing that we've talked about before on my channel is Steel Division is played by the roads. More often than not, your opponent's going to focus a push down a single road because World War II vehicles are a lot slower off-road, and the farther you are off a road, the more likely you're gonna die, because you're not gonna be able to get on a road to retreat quicker if you need to get out of the combat. So that's why it's key to taking this position when you're attacking from the blues perspective. But we're gonna switch over to what do we do when we're attacking the town here and defending the town. We're going to first talk about defending the town. As we said before, you can use this line of sight to defend the town, and you can also use this line of sight, which is a great one to defend the town. because if you get a good tank and AT gun set up there, you can draw your opponent into the valley there and then hit him in the flank and take out his push or extremely disrupt it, allowing you a better defense of your town. And also does another thing very similar to what we talked about here, where he can be drone in to this little forest here to kill your AT gun. He's going to try to come through this tree line and these light trees to try to get whatever AT gun or tank you have here. So you can set up a good little line right here, force him into an infantry engagement that really puts him off kilter in his attack. Now, when you're defending the town specifically, there's really no great lines of sight. The only thing I would say is be aware of this church tower right here. Put a recon unit in it. Because if you get a 2-vet recon unit in it, you'll be able to spot anything that's in these tree lines right here. And if you have artillery, like a mortar or even a 105 if you're using it, you can just take out any IG gun, AT gun, or even suppress tanks or break up infantry concentrations on that hill. Defending the town specifically, though, you're going to be wanting to use either flamethrower troops, Molotov cocktail troops, or pretty cheap 20 to 15 point disheartened troops to Strelky Grenadier style units. The main reason for that is you have so many areas around the town to give fire support to the town and cut off lines of advance to the town that you don't need to be putting a Bagel Pioneer or a Sapiri Rocks in the town or something like that to really defend it and have that unit be the key point of the defense. The defense of this town, and even this town right here, is the surrounding areas of the town. Now, this tree line's great because it cuts off the road down right here. Have an AT gun in there or a machine gun to harass anything that comes through there. Have an AT gun or machine gun here to harass anything that comes through the open here and get really, really crazy with the line of sight here. Try to get anything that's in these tree lines right here. And this tree line here is extraordinarily good for putting units here on this little road, and you can really stretch it out there and get good lines of sight on reinforcements there, or right here to get good lines of sight on reinforcements coming down this road or this road right here. Now, this farmstead is extremely key to holding. You don't want to allow your opponent to get machine guns in here, or your AT gun positions are compromised by either Maxims or MG42s. So what I usually do is I'll put a quick little flamethrower troop here, try to rush them into the farm complex here to dig in and defend it. So you flip it around, you look at it from the blue side, attacking the town and the little valley area here. Using this hill is key, and using this tree line is key. What you're going to want to do when you're attacking this town this way, or even the valley itself, is obviously put AT guns and tanks on the hill to cut off this line of reinforcements right here for your opponent. And then if you have artillery or something like that, suppress this forest. Don't let them get anything in this forest to cut off your attack here. So, what do we talk about from the red perspective? Right here and right here is going to be key to stopping your attack on the town in the middle. So if you're going to be attacking the town, you have two options. One, going quick and going really, really hot in the very start of the game. Vanguard style, I'm going straight into that town. I'm going to force you to fight over this town, and the game's going to be made or broke right here. Winner takes all. Or if you're like a Maverick or a flatline even, or a balance to play really defensive, use that hill as a key point to really drag your opponent into a combat. Use the hill's geographic position to kill and pick off units, build up your income, build up your forces, and then launch an all-out attack on this town. Or if you're Vanguard and you don't really want to go for the town here, push over here. If you take this, you're going to be able to buy a ton of cheap infantry, just flood it into the town. You're going to definitely have stuff up here from your beginning deployment because you're going to want AT guns, IG guns, tanks, just to watch over the valley. When you have this position, they're panicking, trying to take it back. A line of 6 Ersatz-Truppen rolling into here with some smoke, that can be absolutely devastating and demoralizing because not only do you have a breakthrough here, you're about to collapse right here. So that's generally how I take care of this side of the map. You can always bring in a flamethrower troop to contest this little farmstead right here from this position, which is always a good idea, trying to take care of this. But it could be a lost unit, or it could be a focal point of your attack. Instead of using artillery, getting MG set up here to take out units and AT guns in the area. It's honestly up to you. That means now we're really going into more of the third line, because this kind of reaches over into this, second line, not third line, in this area of the map. So looking at it from the red perspective, it's going to be a very similar strategic idea as we just saw from the blue perspective. You're going to be wanting to put AT guns, tanks, IG guns, machine guns on the hill here to cut off the line of reinforcements into the town. You put an AT gun here, a tank right here. You cut off this road into the town. Cutting off the roads are key. Steel Division is played by the roads. If you don't have a road for an attack, there's no easy way to resupply an area, and you can always starve them out that way. So cutting off the roads is key. So, as we said before, there's a few things you can do. You can build up, you can take the flank, or you can attack head on from the start to take this town. Generally speaking, I would advise against taking this town and pushing for it, mainly because this tree line right here is really hard to take because you're open to flanking shots here, and it's very dense. And the resupply point is pretty close, and your line of resupply here is pretty open to either getting hit in the flank here from a strong counterattack, or just AT guns, snipers, and machine guns and tanks that are just in this forest contesting this area. But one benefit of attacking this town from this position rather than attacking this town here from this position is this little farmstead right here. This farmstead here is extremely good because if you get machine guns in here from this point of the map, you're able to cut this tree line off. And if you're able to cut this tree line off, that doesn't become a problem. You're able to take this. But you're going to have to be very wary of what comes in from right here in the hill while you're trying to take this. So if you're going to attack the town from a more left-leaning perspective, you're going to need to focus on taking this, which means this part of the map's key to cutting off the lines of reinforcements right here. But if you're coming down this road right here, this right here is going to be key in your attack. Because if you're able to take this tree line right here, you can always sneak troops through the woods in like a half track and just rush out of the woods and try to get into the forest this way. A good little flanking attack right here, because people usually don't expect that. Because as I said before, attacks are won and lost by the road that they're based off of. You need a good ability to reinforce quickly and effectively with your units. But sometimes when it's coupled with something like this, using terrain to mask your movement, it's going to be really good at taking the town. So that brings us in to the opponent's perspective right here in defending. So this is going to kind of work into the same way. How would you attack the town? Well, you're going to watch for lines of sight from these tree lines here. If you're defending here, this line of sight's really key at, as you can see there, stopping the road on that hill and the valley little area to the right in the open field, and then that tree line that's right here coming down this way. So this line of sight right here is going to be your best bet for using a cheap little AT gun to stopping troop transports from rushing into the town. This little road line of sight right here, if you have a tank, is also very good. And then this tree line here, and then this tree line right here are also great. But the best line of sight to defending this town is actually right here with a tank. Main reason being is if you have a tank right there, you completely cut off that road from the hill and you can contest anything that's in that light forest on the hill while being covered from the green tree lines there on the hill. And if you get an AT gun here, you get an even better line of sight too that reaches out further, and a machine gun there, you start contesting what comes in right here. Now, defending the literal town itself with infantry, it's going to be very similar to this town right here. You're going to want to use cheap 15 to 20 point infantry units just to contest it, make sure they have to go house to house to clear it out while you're supporting positions, defend it. Now, when we're going over this part of the map, dealing with this forest here, I typically don't like fighting over this forest from this perspective or even this perspective. Main reason, it becomes a formula. Your opponent's going to put an AT gun here if you're attacking from the blue perspective. If you're defending, you'll put an AT gun here to cut off this road, so mortar and plane will kill it here. And then you get stuck into some of the densest forest fighting that I've seen in 1v1s other than Zell, mainly just because when you're going through this green tree line here, it's just a corridor of death, flamethrowers, Molotov cocktails, satchel charges, SPWs, armored cars, light tanks rolling through the tree line here, bazookas sitting in the trees. This area is extraordinarily hard to push, and it's always really hard fighting. That's why I wouldn't push the hill right here. I would just defend the hill from both perspectives and try to take the tree line here. You take the tree line right here, this forest, you cut off the road of the reinforcements right here, then you're able to take the hill here. But when you're taking this forest here, just be sure to watch your flank right here. So having AT guns and bazookas around here to go out and skirmish with whatever's trying to cut you off in the forest here is key. Now, when you're coming down this road here, like I said, there's going to always be an AT gun here from any really competent player that's going to cut off your reinforcements. So you're going to either have to buy a plane, buy artillery. It's going to take a lot of resources away. That's why you want to stay away from this side of the map. Now, overall, looking at it from the red and the blue side, which perspective of the map do I personally like the most? I personally like this side of the map more. Reason being is I really like fighting over the side of the map here from this perspective. I know there is that one line of sight here that can cover the road, but I really do enjoy being able to use this farmstead and this tree line here to cut off any attack on this town. This town's a lot harder to attack than this one right here, mainly because the ability to reinforce this town is extremely easy from the red perspective here. This tree line here gives you a lot of cover to get into the town. Even the tree lines right here give you some cover from the hill, relatively. You got a little area here to run across, but if you're being really good about skirmishing with the units on the hill using your forest, you can defend this town very well while pushing the hill here. You don't get into the same kind of drawn out battle that you can in the forest here as you can here, because it's extremely hard to reinforce this hill from either perspective. Coming in through this road, you're going to have to either risk getting shot at by units that are just around here looking down the road, coming up into here. You come up the road right here, you get hit by units in the tree line. Or if you're coming down this road, you get hit by the AT gun here, or like I said before, units that are just generally in this area. But stay away from this area. It's really easy to get transport sniped here. Now, from the blue perspective here, it's not impossible to play this map. You have a lot of good advantages here. You have some good lines of sight still over this road here. You have a really good line of sight here to defending from this hill. You have the farmstead here to be able to contest it. You take the farmstead, you can really mess up your opponent's units that are going to be in this little area here. So both sides are good. This is why I think this is the best competitive map in the game. But the red side, for our purposes here, is a lot better than the blue side. So I hope you guys enjoyed this first part of this multi-part series on how to play 1v1 maps. The next map we'll be looking at is Orsha East, just to get the Orshas out of the way. And in that video, we're going to be going over a lot of the same things, looking at lines of sight and how to play the map generally overall. Hope you guys enjoyed. Take care and stay safe. That's my frog. He's giving some input right now. Yep. You tell him, bud. Yeah, you're telling him. God damn. If you're looking for some pussy, you ain't getting any. You're stuck in that cage alone. Anyways, where were we?